If you have not worn blackface, then you cannot call yourself a liberal. Welcome to Morning Reflections. I am your host, the Fat Mantis. I am, of course, talking about Justin Trudeau, the most sensitive man in politics. Prime Minister, or is it President? I don't know what those people in the North do, of Canada. The land of poutine, hockey, Degrassi, and just being weird versions of Americans, almost like doppelgangers. He is known for his sensitivity, his hyperliberalness, and understanding. And he has just been caught doing blackface, not once, but twice. That has been recorded. I have a feeling he probably goes home and he puts blackface on and he looks in the mirror and he talks jive talk so that he can somehow figure out what it feels like to be a minority. That's how sensitive the guy is. Or there could be something else going on. It is more likely that all these supposed liberals and people who go on about being all sensitive and into social programs and worrying about people are really doing it because they have guilty consciences. Because deep down inside, they are rotten people as well. Yeah, right. They're all like, they're trying to, they try to attack people for being racist or making racist jokes or whatever. They want to make everything all about sensitivity. While in the end, they have probably throughout their lifetime made a ton of them. It's disgusting, but too funny. If you don't know about this guy, look him up, because he is literally, he's just, really disgusting. He's disgusting in his nice, soft-spoken, bleeding-heartedness. It's comical. But honestly, we have to move on. We got to get into it. And basically, we got to get into what the headline of the story is. It is time to review Episode 1 of American Horror Story 1984. I was going to say 1989. Taylor Swift is always on my mind. But no, in American Horror Story 1984. So the premiere has just come. Episode 1 of 10 has dropped. And I've got a quick review, non-spoiler review. It'll be spoiler-ish. But still certainly accessible for you to watch. So here's the situation. It is a high concept similar to Season 6, where the concept almost envelopes the story. It takes place in a summer camp and takes place under the perception of slashers. The thing that I'm really, really worried about is that every season, regardless of the theme, whether it be ghosts or monsters or mummies or whatever it is, they always have a serial killer in the cast. And there's always one person who is a new, unique take on serial killers. As we all know, Ryan Murphy, the creator of Glee, who also creates the show, loves serial killers. And he studies them and he emulates them and he creates these great ones for the screen. Throughout these seasons, he's had some great serial killers, but apparently the entire this entire season that takes place in the 80s completely revolves around serial killers. And that's what I'm a little worried about. They normally are able to pull off serial killer plots. I felt like this one, it's hard to tell from a first episode, but it feels like it's light on actual story, and it's heavy just on concept. I will say, on the positive, it does the 80s better than any other 80s period piece I have seen thus far, such as The Americans or there's all these other knockoffs where everyone, the new thing is to put your show in the 80s, even when it doesn't need to be. Even Deadly Class took place in the 80s, and you know what? A lot of these shows you can't tell they're in the 80s. The Americans, I would forget it was in the 80s on a regular basis, because they would forget to, lap up the 80s-ness. People would just dress normal and acting normal. They'd own a car and be beat-up car. I'm like, oh, they own a beat-up car. But apparently that was a staple of the 80s. But no, Ryan Murphy has gone all out this season, where everything is colorful and in your face. These people are rocking mullets, porn star mustaches, and fluorescent colored or leotards and sweat gear, because they're all aerobics. They're all into aerobics and stuff like that. It is great. It is absolutely amazing. You know what I mean? Even especially when the show starts off, they do an introduction of each character in the aerobics class, and they all are these cliche or should I say archetypal characters from slasher films of the 80s, such as Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street and all these other things. And I think that is really done. That in itself is extremely entertaining, especially since they have Matthew Morrison joining the cast. And he, for all you know, he's Mr. Schuster from Glee. So he's the nerdy thing. He's playing the exact opposite. He's a aerobics master, sex symbol, and all that stuff. Just absolutely, this is good. This is entertaining all of its own. I have some theories about the characters, but that's more for a spoiler review. But ultimately, I would say my curiosity is piqued. I will be watching way more of them. I give this episode a solid 87 out of 100, of course. So, I would also like to point out that the gore levels have hit a new level where they're actually showing that. And that, I feel that's also a bad sign for Story. I got a bad feeling about this. Because sometimes, even in American Horror Story, they don't show all the gore. Because you don't need to. You're already captivated by these characters. And honestly, I would say every season, except for season 6, they have done an amazing job of actually telling a great story that just happens to be set in a horror genre. As opposed to doing the opposite. And I'm worried this will be like season 6, where it'll just be all... Oh, wait, look! Benji, what are your thoughts on American Horror Story? Did you like it? I am going to take that. He gives it an A. He gives it a what? He said a 93. Oh, okay, interesting. So we're going to be on for some interesting debates headed into the future about this. Now, I want to move on back to our cultural exploration of the world, because this is what the show is all about. I'm sorry I couldn't get into more detail about American Horror Story, but I want to talk about something that I saw in the news. It was a piece, it was a propaganda piece about, the story, the concept was children who are detained at the border or separated from their parents. Both experiences traumatize the children. Well, I have news for all of you guys out there. Everything in the world is traumatic. You don't know what traumatizes everyone. But if the argument is constantly focusing on, look, someone's having a bad time. We need to stop this practice because while we're at it, why don't we get rid of prisons? Why don't we get rid of all human suffering? Why don't we get rid of class? You know what? You're never going to get rid of any of those things. It's nonsense. You know what? Unemployment in America makes trauma. People not getting not enough resources in the world creates trauma. Everything creates trauma. So why don't you eliminate that? Really, there is no cure for the human condition. So, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it is a complete perversion of any actual true logic or actually debate skills if you are only attacking the concept that they're like, this is bad because it creates trauma. So when you stop trying to push this thing that I need to vote your way, or I need to think your way, or change the world, or change everything because it's based on trauma, because that's propaganda. And for those of you who don't understand what propaganda is a news story based solely on emotion and not actual fact. When you show victims of a certain thing, like for instance, after a mass shooting, if you just bring in the parents of kids, who were lost in a shooting, that is not actually news. That is propaganda. They want you to cry and weep guns away. They don't actually want you to learn actual information, because news is supposed to be about reporting information, not having some bleeding heart person on the thing so that you weep for them and you go, you know what, I'm going to change my way. So that is my 2 cents. I'm sorry I had to end on such a rough note. I would love to hear what you thought of American Horror Story. Once again, I give it a whopping 87, which is good. We'll see where this story is headed. I am very happy that Emma Roberts has returned to the cast. And of course, Billie Lourd. Love her. One of my future wives from a future harem. Anyway, I hope you have a beautiful day. It is freaking freezing out here, but that is what fall mornings are. I'm sure it'll be 90 by noon. But I hope you embrace this beautiful day. Go hug your cat. Go hug a loved one. Go watch the old seasons of American Horror Story and live the dream. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Ciao for now.